Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to welcome you to the presentation of the results of the PKP CARGO, covering the first half of the year of 2016. Today's presentation will be carried by the president of the company, Maciej Libiszewski. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. After a lot of thinking, and then we decided, after that, all of that thinking, we decided that we need some changes. So untypically, today's presentation will be presented by me. So with regard to the information that we would like to present you is that after the bad results of the first quarter of this year, well, the situation calmed down in the second quarter. So I can't really say that we've reached the bottom, because I hope we still can't see it. But so we didn't hit the ground, I hope. But I believe the situation is calmer now with regard to our customers, the contracts, and this is the most important information that we would like to present you during today's conference. And before we move on to the results per se, well, all of you who follow our situation, well, you've noticed that we have more people here. Everyone is actually checking the situation here. We have the new member of the board, so the board is completed now. This is the member of the board who represents the employees, Mr. Zenon Kozendra, member of the board. Zenon Kozendra is not an accidental person, member of the board. This is my colleague from the previous board 10 years ago. At that time, he was responsible for the administration, and before he joined the company, well, his father worked in the company. Before his father joined the company, his grandfather worked for the company. So this is the whole story. And, well, yes, I am presenting you our new colleague, new member of the board, Mr. Zenon Kozendra. He actually received the largest number of votes in the contest. So we are very happy to have him with us. So he is completing the concept, the idea that we have been implementing for 10 months. So Zenon Kozendra is completing our concept for the company. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the president of the company for all the warm words. Well, sure. I have been with PKP CARGO since the very beginning, and even earlier, because my whole professional life has been connected with rail. So I've worked here in this company as the member of the board, member of the supervisory board, and, well, I've executed other positions as well. So I would like to bring here to the board my expertise, but also I would like to bring good communication with employees. That is important for the company. So I would like to say that understanding the goals of the company is good for the company, benefits the company. So I will be representing the employees, and that was their will to put me here in the board. So I would like to ensure everyone that the employees support this board and the activities of the board that aim at stabilizing the company, at developing the company with regard to revenues and profits. And the employees are aware that this sort of activities, actions, will will help them to keep their jobs. So with this regard, I would like to support the board. So thank you. Thank you so much. Now I would like to move on to the publication and the results covering the 2016, and the basic data will be presented by Arkadiusz Olewnik. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The basic results are as follows. With the revenues 2,123 million and the cost 2.317 million zloty. OPEX, well, the net result is minus 115 million zloty. Whereas the data covering the first 6 months of 2016 have been corrected by two values. The first is the impairment on the assets, which is 35.4 million zloty and 62.9 million zloty impairment as well. Well, capex was 267 million zloty. It's higher by 6% year on year. And the company had the market share that was beyond 51.2%, and this is measured by the freight volume. So thank you. Thank you. Now about the position of the PKP CARGO and basic data on the coal market, aggregate market. Well, this will be presented by Grzegorz Fingas. Ladies and gentlemen, the position of the PKP CARGO group during the first 6 months of 2016 is 51.2% of market share. So the freights have dropped slightly. It's 13.5 billion ton kilometers. So firstly, the hard coal. Well, we've recorded here a slight drop. The market is 5.4 billion kilometers. Well, it was due to the situation that was prevailing last year, that you have been actually informed on that situation on ongoing basis. Well, I believe that you can also observe our market share and freight transport data published by the Central Statistical Office. Well, during the first 6 months, we've recorded growth of electric energy. So aggregates and construction materials, because of a smaller scale of investments, lower number of construction sites. Well, here the freight transport has dropped. This is nearly 1.8 billion ton kilometers in the first 6 months. But in order to be more optimistic, in order to tell you more optimistic news, I would like to tell you that we have really a lot of hopes for the next 6 months. There are, in 2016, we are talking about 25 billion zloty worth investments. We are talking about road investments, and the perspective is up to 2025. And we are talking about 96 million tons. So knowing our position, our market share, well, we are hoping that our position will improve. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about it, discuss it. So yesterday I've talked to the directors of the PLK. So we would like to be ready to implement, to face all the challenges, all the requirements. And now, Jarosław Klasa. Well, 25 billion zloty, as it was mentioned, this is a total value of the rail infrastructure improvement program. And PKP CARGO is a natural partner in this program because we've got all the resources that are necessary to implement this program. But a few words about what is happening on the market, on the aggregates market. Well, by the PKP has announced tenders worth 18 billion zloty. So those tenders have been announced. Contractors are being selected. By the end of the year, we are talking about 6 billion zloty. So we will actually be hearing about new investments. Well, the key tenders that have been announced. So this is the rail number 7, Warszawa Wschodnia do Rochust, construction of the infrastructure for the ERTMS GSM-R system, so modern systems, execution of construction works, and preparation of execution documentation for the project work on the E30 rail line on section Kraków Główne Towary Rudzice, as well as of execution of construction works LCS Konin section Barłogi Swarzędz. So next year we are talking about 100 various projects that will be announced. For instance, it will be E75 line and so on. So our employees are observing, following tightly this investment market, and we are getting ready to get as much as possible here. Well, the total value of the program is 107 billion zloty. So the total length of roads that will be modernized, it's nearly 4,000 kilometers. So this is the road market. So we are talking about S8, S7, S11 roads. So these elements have already started. However, the accumulation and the accumulated freight work, well, this will happen in 2017 and 2018. Thank you so much. And President Grzegorz Fingas will continue presenting the information about ores and metals. Well, in ores and metals, we had some drop because the big furnace has been closed down. We have been ready for that. However, it influenced our results. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, the market has been very challenging for us. So the transportation of metals and ore have been about 1.72 kilometers. So it seems, so we are talking about a 7% drop. So we believe that all the most difficult situation has already finished, and we believe that the coming months of 2016 are more hopeful, allow us to be more hopeful. We would like to be a leader on this market, and we are actually trying to prove it. So the intermodal market, as I've said, we want to be the leaders here, and then we actually show it by the 25% growth. We are talking here about the new Silk Road. So this is the growth of 11.3% year on year, the growth, as well as container freight volume reloaded in Polish ports. The growth is here up to 8.3 year on year. Thank you. Now we are moving to 2 slides that concern AWT. This subject is quite popular in the press and other media. Therefore, we've prepared 2 slides dedicated to this situation. So the share in the Czech market is nearly 10%. The market position number 2 on the market. We are talking about over 4,500 wagons. So Paskov terminal, 25 kilometers from Poland, over 2,000 employees, our own sidings, and we have several hundred kilometers of rail tracks, and siding services 26. However, by the 3rd May of 2016, announcement of OKD's bankruptcy. However, the NWR claims have been rejected. Well, this was the biggest amount here. So AWT became one of the 4 members of the creditors committee, together with the 2 companies who represent the Czech Republic, and also the insurer of Rewirska, Bracka, Zdravotní Poistovna. And, well, it has been the biggest bankruptcy in Czech Republic so far. This is a very difficult situation for them. It's got a lot of implication, economic, social, and so on. And, well, because this is such a difficult problem, we are trying to cooperating with them. And now Arkadiusz Olewnik will present some financial information. Thank you. As I've mentioned, the operating revenues during the first 6 months of 2016 were 2,123 million zloty, and they were 3% higher year on year. Well, last year, I would like to remind you, those revenues were higher by 138 million because of the occasional purchase of AWT. Operating expenses were at the time were 2,317 million zloty and 23% higher year on year. EBITDA was 130 million. Net result was 195 million. And of course, it was hugely influenced by the impairments connected with AWT. So this is those impairments are responsible for 50% of the result. Now, moving on to operating expenses, we can safely say that the structure has not changed. So external services are still over 30% in the cost expenses. And the biggest expense is the access to the infrastructure. The second position are the employee benefits. They are slightly over 30%, and they are higher by 8% year on year. Another position here is the amortization, which was 324 million zloty, and it was higher by over 50%. Well, that is connected with the calculation of residual values that has changed at the end of 2015. And the fourth big position in expenses is the energy. And this is a slight growth here. However, the effectiveness factors, so per 1,000 ton kilometers, this position has not changed. However, the cost of access to infrastructure and effectiveness parameters here, unfortunately, the unit cost has grew by 6%. So the unit cost has grew. And now, employee benefits. As I've mentioned, they've grew by 8%. However, I would like to highlight that if we observe just PKP CARGO without AWT and we compare the results year on year, then they are lower. Actually, they are lower. So with regard of this position, our management board is keeping the discipline, following the discipline. Now, moving on to selected external services, as I've mentioned, the cost of infrastructure access, this is the higher cost. This is around 318 million zloty. This is about 3% more as compared to the previous year. The second are the transport services, 79% growth, and this is mainly the responsibility of AWT group. And I would like to highlight that there is one element here that has recorded drop. So this is IT services, telecom and IT services. Minus 4 million zloty as compared to the previous year. Well, now capital expenditures, CAPEX, is nearly the same as last year. However, the structure has changed, and I would like to remind you that the company is buying now Vectron locomotives. At the moment, we have 12 locomotives ready and in the company, so we can actually observe that we've spent 102 million zloty for the locomotives so far. And so the expenses spent on the modernization and purchase of new locomotives and wagons will be lower. So we forecast that they will be lower in the coming months. Now, financing structure. So available funding sources now. The company have over 1,743 million zloty, and cash is 162 zloty. Credit lines, are offered by BGK, EIB, and so on banks. Now, ND per EBITDA is on a safe level. This is 2.6. Debt structure has not changed. Well, this is all actually connected with the Vectron purchase, and the growth is due to long-term financing. Cash flows have remained on the level of 19 million zloty. So investment, Vectron, this is a very important position. This is minus 309 million zloty, financial 167 million zloty. So we are financing the purchase of Vectron. So thank you. Thank you so much. With regard to the challenges for PKP Cargo, then we should refer to the forecasted GDP growth in Poland that is forecasted to be about 3.2%, and expected growth in steel consumption that is approximately 3% until the end of 2016. PKP PLK will invite tenders for about 9 billion worth. So in 2016, it will be as much as 6.5 billion in the H2. So we need to have this to be able to transport all the materials at the climax of rail and road construction projects. And this is something that, our company has been working on. Higher profitability of transport services are of a key importance for us. You have noticed that during the tenders. You can see that actually PKP Cargo has ended the price war on the market. And it's also important for us to extend the contracts for coal transport and develop the international operations. Well, with regard to financial affairs, cost discipline is very important. We need to be flexible in aligning resources with market conditions. Those two elements, in order to implement them, we are returning to the management, to the flat management structure in order to replace the vertical structure. So we are giving more competences to the directors of the facilities. We are increasing the responsibility for the financial results of the facilities. That is slowly starting to work. And with regard to the restructurization, all the companies, all the facilities have been part of that, and the leading role was played by the personnel office and the director, Mrs. Krupka. And this office, this department, was also responsible for limiting the employee benefits. And as we know, in a group such as PKP CARGO is very difficult. However, we succeeded. So I need to highlight that. So we succeeded in implementing the most difficult task. We also hope that other ideas will be as successful. In terms of operating, well, we need to obtain cheap funding. We need to also obtain co-financing from the EU funds for purchases of modern container platforms. So those tenders will start this year, and we will be taking part in those processes. So we are continuing to develop the processes of computerization as well as rolling stock modernization. This is a very important thing for us. We will not be... We have been talking quite a lot that the mean age, average age of the wagon is 30 years, while the locomotive is 22 years. So we can't really go towards having 100 years old wagons. So we need to actually to make our wagons and locomotives younger. With regard to the situation, employee situation in the company, we've been able to bring back cooperation and peaceful situation, tame the situation in the company. Well, not just the management board, but also directors have worked on that, and we have quite a lot of really good directors. Some of them were members of the board, and today they are helping us to develop this plan of changing the company. With regard to the unions, well, we've signed 2 contracts, 2 agreements with unions. The first, they concerned also the requirements for higher wages. Although at that time we couldn't really offer them higher wages. And so the unions and the management board were very mature during those discussions, negotiations. And I need to say this, although this is painful for me to say it, that at the moment the management board has no financial resources to offer higher wages. However, in the negotiations with the unions, however, we will try to discuss the situation with the unions. We will try to explain that at this moment, we need to actually understand, to be aware that everyone is responsible for the situation. I can't say that we will not offer wage raises, but we'll see how the negotiations go. So we would like to continue the very good cooperation with the unions. With regard to our services, so we are trying to continue to be leader on the market, especially in some of the segments. So we are aware that the EU policy regarding the coal, we realize that this will not be the product that will generate the higher profits for us in the coming years. We also understand that the investment program will end at some point, hence the aggregates market will change. So the specialized transportation, food, construction materials, chemicals. Well, these are the products, the commodities that we are interested in transporting in the coming years. With regard to the prices, well, I've said it already, we are not planning to bring the prices down. During those past 6 months, PKP Cargo has won a few important tenders for the transportation. They were PGNiG Termika, deliveries for the 3 facilities in Warsaw. We are also delivering services to Kozienice Elektrownia. We've signed a contract with Azoty. So you've seen our struggles on the market and successes in signing contracts. So we were able to reach such effectiveness that we are able to balance the revenues and the expenses. And that was also supported by the international cooperation. So the management board started to work on the cooperation on the international market. So we've tightened our cooperation with China, but in order to tighten this cooperation even more, we need to cooperate with other countries, other states that participate in the new Silk Road, which is called by China One Belt, One Road. So in order to prepare well the visit of the President of China to our terminal in Warsaw, that you can actually see the pictures, the photographs documenting this visit. You can see the President of China, you can see the President of Poland. In the background, you can see the locomotives PKP Cargo. But actually, you can see that after long negotiations with China, we have 2 elements that are important here. One is Poland and one is PKP Cargo. Here on this board, you can see this. And because of our negotiation, well, the president decided to try a Polish apple, and it was so delicious that they were eaten by all the members of the Chinese group. Well, it happened in a split of a second. So what's the practical information here? So 2 hours after signing the most important agreements, just one of the provinces, and we had representatives of several Chinese provinces. So just one province ordered containers, reef containers, 500 reef containers. So actually, that shows you that Chinese partners treat the situation very seriously, and so do we. So before this visit on the terminal, our study group visited China, Shanghai. We've participated in a conference that was organized there together with the heads of the rail companies of the countries that participate in the Silk Road. We also participated in Ulaanbaatar conference. We've seen the representatives of the management board of all rails that of the countries that participate in the new Silk Road. So Kazakhstan, Russia, Austria, Germany, Lithuania, France, well, and so many more. So it all points that the freight transportation will be growing here. So we are interested in the direction of China because at the moment, most of the freight is brought towards Europe, and 1/10 of the whole freight transportation is from Europe to China. So we want to make it more profitable. But with regard to other countries, we are working on ABC countries cooperation, so Adriatic, Baltic Sea, and Black Sea. We are continuing on working on cooperation with Croatia. And at the end, we also seriously take care of our heritage. So the train carriage house, and so after several years, we've signed a contract to create this cultural institution, which is Wolsztyn Train Carriage House. Is that important? Yes, it is important, because before PKP CARGO has paid for it through its marketing costs. So that was a pure cost for us. And at the moment, introducing also 3 local governments, so City of Wolsztyn, Wolsztyn Powiat, and the Marshal of the province. So the effect is that each of the shareholder is responsible for participating in possible potential costs and paying for 1/4 of the cost. But the marshal will also order regular journeys that will be completed by our locomotives, and Wolsztyn will start to live again, and this train carriage house will be profitable again. So this optimistic information will be the last information during today's meeting. So now I would like to welcome all the questions, if there are any questions. We encourage everyone to ask questions. Cezary Barnotek, Bank. With regard to AWT problems, are you planning any restructurization, or maybe you will continue as you did so far? Well, with regard to this stage of the situation, well, considering our good cooperation with Czech Republic and the administration structure of the state, well, we need to highlight that firstly. But secondly, we need to emphasize that, well, this company is continuing, so the coal is still being mined, and, well, it will be mined for several years. However, with regard to AWT is continuing what they've been doing. Well, we are decreasing the share of coal in the freight transportation. And, well, they are winning new contracts. So there is no need for restructurization of employment, but we need to shift some resources from coal to other specialized freights. So this is being done. One more thing, we will not need the restructurization because the cost of employment benefits in AWT are, well, the share of overtime in the employee benefit is quite high. As for the rail company, well, that helps us to be more flexible here. Piotr Łopaciuk. Well, shortly speaking, this is the promotion. We love promotions. PLK, this is our closer collaborator here. So if there is a promotion, our cost is growing. What can I say? What else can I say? Well, I've said it several times already. Well, the cost of access to infrastructure was never painful for us, but we've always highlighted the fact that our competition does not pay that. For instance, our road competition does not pay for it, so they don't pay for taking communal or provincial roads. We need to actually pay for taking the rail, for the journeys on the rails, and for stopping. So, well, we were never concerned with the access and the payment for the access, but unfair competition. That was the problem for us. So, as far as we know, it should change. You know what are the ideas of the European Commission? We are hoping for the situation to be made more fair. So, in about 300,000 wagons 3 years ago, today we have slightly over 40,000 wagons. And the road transport has 300,000 new lorries at the moment. So that's not an accident. Well, we are not really unhappy that PLK charges us for the access, because somebody has to pay for this rail. But we need to have a fair competition in terms of the road transport. And if the competition is fair, and if the situation is fair, we will be able to carry on. Are there any further questions? I'm sure there are, but they will start once we say that we are coming to an end of our meeting. Yeah, please. So before you think about questions, about the questions that you would like to ask, well, I'll tell you it's worth to ask the questions because my colleagues have prepared. So they've rehearsed several types of questions, so maybe it's worth to take advantage of it. Well, we also have the new member of the board, and he would like to tell you about the negotiations with the unions, because I haven't said it today, but during the last meeting, I've mentioned that Zenon Kozendra has started to participate. Has started participating in those negotiations before he became the member of the board. So he was working very hard on it. So we really hope that the whole outcome will be very successful. So maybe I will answer the question that hasn't been asked yet. So I will talk more about the situation in terms of employees. So if you compare the previous year to this year, well, these are two completely different periods in terms of the employee situation. So I can't really say that we moved from the hell to the heaven, but definitely we've moved from hell to a normal situation, normalized situation. So in the history of 15 years of PKP CARGO, last year, for the first time, the general strike has been announced. And it has never happened before in the company. The general strike has never been announced until the last year. And this year, for the first time in the history of the company, the actions, the steps implemented by the management board has made the unions to renounce the general strike, and they actually dissolved the facility and the regional striking committees. strike committees. So that was the first time in the history of the company, and well, those kind of committees have been opened, launched in 2003 for the first time in the history of the company. However, the negotiations concerned other problems. So, well, I'm telling you that in order to show you that reconstruction of social dialogue and rebuilding the trust among the employees of the company, this is part of the process that has been implemented by the company. Well, the employees feel that they are respected, and this feeling of respect makes it possible to rebuild the trust, and the trust helps to make people more engaged. So as I've said at the beginning, well, we are rebuilding the respect, the trust, and the engagement among the employees on everyday basis, and that impacts the business, the development of the company. So thank you. Thank you. As you may know, if there is a carrot, there is a stick. And this stick, this that function are played by my favorite departments that I've headed 10 years ago. So financial and economic departments, and of course the personnel department a bit. But the financial and economic departments are introducing some nets. And those nets have been actually implemented, launched several years ago when the company was going through the toughest time. So we've returned to that policy again. And, well, all those nets are headed by Mr. Arkadiusz Olewnik. So, well, this is all with one goal. In order to achieve one goal, to have a stabilized, good situation. Of course, we have some small moves and changes in terms of personnels. Well, that is connected with the not very successful implementation of the program, employment program, when we lost quite a lot of experts. So in some sections, well, because all in some sections, the needs are not matched with the resources. So that is actually influencing the production process. And in such moments, we have to agree for new employments. Of course, there are some natural leaves, such as retirements and so on. So the structure of employment has also shifted a little bit, but all those factors are contributing to the situation, to a difficult situation in the company in terms of the employees who believe that those savings are impacting them, and the situation is impacting them. So we are focusing on trade today. So trade must be our most important element, our focus today, and we are hoping that, well, this will be a successful strategy for the future. Did I say everything with regard to the expenses? Yeah. So, yes, well, I encourage you to ask the questions, and if you need encouragement, well, I'll say it. Our meeting is coming to an end. So, excluding the purchase of the multi-system locomotives from the CAPEX, well, the fleet is becoming older and older across the Europe. So what are your expectations for the future? And this correction, is it just a temporary, or maybe long term. Well, this is only temporary correction, and all the steps implemented in our repair facilities are also temporary. Well, we faced only two alternatives. Either we let people go, or we temporarily save money on the fleet, on the rolling stock. So the answer was simple, because all of the management board members knew that once the coal and aggregates start, well, we need just 2 more contracts to start, to launch, and we will have not enough people, wagons, and locomotives. However, with regard to locomotives or wagons, it is easier to repair them or buy new ones. It is easier to do that than to reconstruct the employment structure in the facilities. So we took that decision very seriously. So we are very aware of what we are doing, and therefore this is a temporary situation. We are planning to spend a lot of money in the coming years. However, we will be using the money that we will earn in the future months and years. Well, continuing the information about the gross salary, I would like to shortly mention a few specialized jobs. So, if the average salary is 4,000 zloty, and the employees, specialized employees, earned 2,500 zloty, well, we can't really employ a new specialized employee and pay and offer him 2,500 zloty. So this is a problematic situation. There are a lot of professions that make it very easy to emigrate to other countries. Well, we have this problem in terms of geography as well. So the southern and western facilities are actually struggling. So this is where we have problems with employment. Most of the work is being done by the facilities that are located in the eastern in the eastern part of Poland. So my question is, what are the costs, what are the activities, measures implemented in terms of investments? What is the expected cost of stops, of the overhauls? So, well, the situation has changed for better, not just here, but also in other former PKP companies, also in PLK. What does it tell us? Well, it tells us that we can actually talk normally with the management board of the PLK about those investments. So we are indicating those places where we could use, we could use on weekends, on Sundays, or in the night, because we don't really necessarily have to take the road during the day. Well, it's completely different. Well, our needs are completely different than with the passenger railway. We need to be as fast as possible, and that's it. And the time of the day doesn't matter. So we will be paying for the basic section, not for the extended section, and that's a huge success because PLK is ready to discuss it now. And in the past, these were a special promotions. So, for instance, the basic before the basic section were 200 kilometers, the extended one, bypassed one, was 300 kilometers, and we had to pay for those 300 kilometers. However, now they are ready to actually discuss it, negotiate it. We have to still remember about the fuel cost, the traction, and so on. But we can see that in PLK, they are willing to negotiate this problem, and they realize that the carriers will be paying for the rail system in Poland in the next few years. Today, the PLK, well, they are able to carry on because of the investment money, but in the future, we, as the carriers, we will be responsible for maintaining PLK. As an effect, PLK understands that and provided a proposal that some of the materials for the construction, rail construction, should be delivered before the constructions start, and this is really good for us. This is a good idea for us. Of course, delivering the materials during the construction is more costly. It takes more time, twice as much time. And at some point, it may become unprofitable. This is a great idea to actually deliver the materials before the construction starts. And if we can implement it, well, we will be definitely supporting this kind of ideas. Dominik Niszczej, Raiffeisen. So among the key events on the coal market, you are mentioning ARA, a growing price, how that translates into transporting volumes and the prices in the coming quarters. And the second question, do you have any estimation concerning the changed price for the access to the infrastructure next year? With regard to the coal prices, well, of course, this question should be asked to our friendly company, Węglokoks, because, well, they know how to answer that. But we know that, unfortunately, the price of the transport depends on the coal price. Well, it seemed that it's not like that we can keep our price and the coal price can actually keep dropping, but it turned out not to be true. So we need to actually decrease the price to keep the transportation. So if the coal price grows, also our prices will be able to slightly move towards the situation that was prevailing a few years ago, where we had the margin, and today actually the margin is nearly is close to a zero. So transporting the coal abroad, this is an additional effect, and well, we are talking about a exotic direction, such as Ukraine exotic, because so far Ukraine was a huge producer of coal, and the coal was actually brought from Ukraine, and today the situation may be reversed, and we are talking about discussing that situation with the management board of the Ukrainian rails. So this may be one of the effects that will happen in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I can say that there will not be too much of a promotion. So the promotion will not be too high. So I have one more question. Do you mean in 2017 for the 2016 or in 2018 for the 2017? You can see the situation at the moment. You can see the results today. You know what was the condition of the company when we took the company over. There's nothing to hide. Everyone knows the results. So the question is whether we will be able to pay the dividend. Well, I will not comment on that. And this is talking about the situation in 2017 for 2016, so dividend in 2017 for 2016.
No nie dajcie się prosić, dajcie nam jeszcze szansę. Od tygodnia tu na was.
Give us one more chance. Don't make me beg you for the questions. We've been waiting for you for a week.
No nie wierzę, że wszystkich
I can't believe that everyone is already satisfied. Yes, please. So I would like to ask about this 20% of AWT. Well, that's been active since the it's going to be active as of 1st of January 2017. How are you planning to use it? So we are not planning to use our option, but well, I of course cannot tell you whether the other party will use their option, but we keep being in contact with other cooperator. Well, yesterday I talked to Rene Hałeczek when I was driving back in my car. Of course, he is the representative of Minezit company, which is our formal co-owner. So taking into account the number of contacts with us and various fields of cooperation with regard to the whole OKD or construction of wagons, renewal of rolling stock, various subjects, well, it all points to our partner staying with us, but it is his decision, not ours. We don't really want to use that option, so thank you. Are there any further questions? So if there are no further questions, I would like to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to thank the President. So thank you. Thank you so much for finding the time to join us today and coming today. So, well, all the questions are welcomed. If anyone wasn't ready to ask the question during the meeting, well, I would like to answer the questions after the meeting. Thank you.